They were a government agency that was literally set up to deal with the weird paranormal shit that other agencies aren't equipped to deal with, or aren't trying to deal with, or just don't want to bother with, or whatever. It didn't have to have. We did not have to have the sequel dealing with Alma Wade and Harlan Wade and continuing that storyline. It could have been something else. Could have been something a little more unique than that. They didn't go that route. And I don't think the sequels to... Personally, I don't think the sequels to Fear are all that bad. But, you might have gotten more mileage out of the series if you had done just another story in the Fear universe. Maybe it would still be going strong. Maybe it would also still be going strong if the second game was as good as the first game. Or the third game was as good as the first game. Neither of the sequels is as good as Fear 1, and that's a shame because Fear 1's fucking awesome. And I would love to say that the sequels are as good, but they just aren't. And I imagine Fear 2 would have been better received if it wasn't called Fear 2. If it was just some other game in some other franchise or something, people would be like, oh, this game's actually pretty good. But because you compare it to the first one, it does not hold up as a sequel to the first one. Oh, I should have seen that snake. He poisoned me. You'd see like my vision going in and out and shit like that. And I realized you poisoned me, and I was sitting there like, is there a way I could cure this? I don't remember. I need to do more crafting and shit.
Does anyone read me? We need immediate assistance.
Go ahead.
Ajay, some packages were dropped in your area. Sending you the coordinates now. We need you to grab the packages before the governor's men do.
You got it.
I love these things. These things are fun. Let's get on this thing, go get some packages. And I'm looking forward to getting back to Fear. I remember Fear 2 being a fairly lengthy game like the first one is. And given that we're 8 episodes in, we're on interval 3, I could believe it. Oops. I don't want to have to kill them. They're so cute. But I don't get a choice. There's some brutal animation. Like, there's some brutal animations for healing yourself. And they were even worse in Far Cry 2, if you guys played that one. I like 2 a lot. A lot of people don't like 2. But I thought Far Cry 2 was awesome. It was actually the first Far Cry game that I ever played. I played that on the PlayStation 3 way back in the day, and I beat it. And it was one of the most immersive games I'd ever played back then.
Got the first one.
Good work. One more to go. Carefully now.
You're a waste of skin.
It's one of the most immersive games I've ever played. You get this huge fucking savannah to explore, a great atmosphere. It still is really pretty, honestly. All these years later, Far Cry 2 is still a very pretty game. And the fire is just... it spreads realistically. It's really, really cool. Much more so than it does in any Far Cry since. Like, they scaled that back in later games. And games after it. I still want a sequel to Blood Dragon. That's still my favorite. Blood Dragon's awesome. If I remember right, I die a couple times trying to get this package. I don't remember. Well, I love the sound of that shotgun. It's so satisfying. It's so fucking satisfying. It's got a really, really good sound to it. Tear down that poster. Yeah. There's a lot more of those than I thought. I didn't know there were 150 of those spread out all over the place. So propaganda posters you could tear down. And Far Cry 6, I haven't played 6. I heard from a friend of mine that 6 has some weird shit about it. Like, very obviously it's Cuba. Like, right? But then it tries to act like it isn't a condemnation of communism, which is weird. Because if you're making a game about how terrible the Cuban regime is, it has to be about that. Because that's what the Cuban regime is. Right? It is. Doesn't make any sense. Whatever. I need to buy something with all that money I've got. Okay, so yeah, I don't think I died so much as I just couldn't figure out where the fuck the package was. I remember searching for the package for a while, and I just set myself on fire. Just, you know, casually, as you do. And here, I had this mind set up, maybe if I get in a helicopter, just fly up over, I'll see it. Or maybe it's on the roof. And then I flew right through the damn tree limbs. I can't believe that didn't stop me and like make me fall. But it didn't. I think I shoot the barrel here and blow myself up. Is this where I do that? I know I did that at one point. I heard it. Where is it? Fucker. Yep, there we go. Boom. Blew myself up. Oh well. What can you do? So I finally caught up on recording all of the gameplay. Because I recorded gameplay. You guys know that when I get games for like birthdays or when I get new games, I tend to record a little bit of raw gameplay from of the game and just host it up on the gameplay channel. Yeah, I did that, and not only did I do all the games that I got for Christmas this past December, but I did some games that I got last year for my birthday that I just never got around to recording. And then I did one game that I bought a couple weeks ago. And I finally uploaded the last of that batch of gameplay, because what I had been doing is one day I would upload Resistance Fall of Man, and the next day I would upload some of that raw gameplay. And I would just switch back and forth between the two. I would switch back and forth between the two, and just until I got it all uploaded. And after I got through 8 episodes of Resistance Fall of Man, I finally uploaded the last piece of gameplay tonight, which was gameplay of the Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions, which is the PlayStation portable version of Final Fantasy Tactics, which had some upgrades to it. It had some beautiful, what appears to be hand-drawn animated cutscenes added to it. It had voice acting added to it. Balthier from Final Fantasy XII, who is an awesome character from an awesome game, was added to it, which makes more sense than Cloud being in the original. I don't know if Cloud's still in it or not.
And that's the last one. What's in these?
Never mind that. Just drop them off at this location, quick.
They retranslated the entire game, so the translation is significantly better than the original version of the game. It's just an all-around better version of Final Fantasy Tactics. I had it back in the day. And I don't know what happened to my copy of it, but for some reason I lost it.
Thank you. The golden path continues to be in your debt. I'll let the people in charge know what...
For some reason I lost my copy of it, and I don't know what happened to it. So I had to, I found it recently at a used bookstore near me, and I bought a copy of it. So I recorded that, and that was the last piece of gameplay that I uploaded. I uploaded it the same night that I am recording this commentary. Also uploaded episode 16 of the Press the Action Button podcast to the podcast archive, which again you can find in the link below, to link down and below where you can find that archive of podcast episodes if you guys are interested in going out and giving that a watch. Or a listen, rather. There's really nothing to watch. It's audio only. The only episode of the podcast that we have ever done that had a video was the 10 best games of the 7th generation of, or the 10 best games of the decade, where I had a list and Eric had a list, and we went through them one by one. That I recorded as many of the games as I could, and the ones that I don't own, like he put Hitman on his list, and I don't own Hitman, so I just got a trailer for it and put that in there. That was fun. Oh, can't use that truck. That's obviously been sitting there a while, but I will take your money. The PlayStation Portable was such an awesome console in general. Like, I did the retrospective review on it last year. That was a lot of fun, and I put A lot of good information was packed into that video. I'm really, really, really happy with how that turned out. I got another piece of hardware that I want to review this year at some point, but I need to get more games for it, and that is the Nintendo Switch. I want to do a review of the Nintendo Switch eventually. I have one. I have enjoyed what I played on it. Haven't played that much on it, though, because I've been too busy, I've been too busy playing stuff either for the channel or stuff on my other consoles. Like, I recently finished Final Fantasy 15. I beat that game, and I beat the DLCs for it. God, the spread must be horrible on this. Oh, he's dead, though, so I got that, even though I'm not the one that killed him. The karma event, or whatever. Oh, this game's gorgeous. I mean, granted, you could tell that it's a last-gen game, right? But it's still beautiful. But, like, Kyrad is a beautiful country to run around in. Gorgeous location. Yeah. I need to get some more games exclusive for the Switch. Maybe Metroid. I really want to get Metroid Dread. The game looks fucking phenomenal. And I'm a big fan of Metroid in general. Shit, I just got run over by a fucking rhino. And I don't have Mario Galaxy for it, and I really, 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 really want to play that. I keep hoping and praying that they will port the Twilight Princess HD remaster to it, because I don't want to have to get a Wii U and pay out the ass just to play that version of the game. But I really want to play that version of the game because it's my favorite 3D Twilight Princess. Favorite 3D Zelda. I still have the GameCube version. In fact, you saw the GameCube version when I recorded gameplay for my review of an HDMI cable that works for the GameCube, the Super Nintendo, and the Nintendo 64. You saw me play that on the console. That was fun, actually. It made me want to play through it again, or play through Final Fantasy 4 or 6 again. But I wouldn't allow myself to get distracted, because then I never would have finished Final Fantasy 15, and my feelings on 15 are mixed. I swear, for everything that I could tell that they're trying to fix fan complaints, things people didn't like about Final Fantasy 13.
Propaganda. I mean, it's all bullshit. Seriously, who writes this stuff? Would you have a PhD in writing bullshit? It has to be soul-crushing, just typing out thousands and thousands of lines of the same shit, saying every day, hey, Pagan is great, Pagan is wonderful, Pagan is awesome. some. Bugun is an amazing golden god who pisses out champagne and shits caviar. You know, actually, if I could piss champagne and shit caviar, what I would do is
I got sidetracked listening to the radio DJ, and
as a premium. And then I would just stuff my face with lots and lots of like South Korean.
yeah, it's gorgeous. Final Fantasy 15 is an absolutely beautiful game. It's well animated on a technical level. I mean, the world is beautiful. There's a lot of wonderful art design in it. The music is great. There's a whole lot of things about Final Fantasy 15 that I really like. Then it tries to improve upon things that people complained about with Final Fantasy 13. Like, with Final Fantasy 13, it is linear to a fault. Linear isn't inherently bad, but when your game is like one gigantic fucking hallway, yeah, it's a problem. Final Fantasy 13 is one gigantic fucking hallway, and that's not good for a goddamn RPG, Square. There's a zero exploration in the game. It sucks. It feels like you're being led on a leash the entire time. Right? That Final Fantasy 15 doesn't have that problem, because it has a huge, it's got a fairly sizable open world, which is nice because it's got a good sense of exploration to it and can be a lot of fun to explore and shit. And then it's got
Hey, you there! Fuck ya! Get him! I'm moving! Watch my back!
Then people complained that the Final Fantasy 13 battle system sucked and had no depth and had no strategy, and if your main character went down, it was automatically over, and they tried to address that in 15 as well. It's got its own magic system. It's an action battle system. It's got the warp strikes, things like that. They tried to make it a battle system with more depth and strategy to it. Which again, I appreciate the attempt to improve on things about 13 that sucked. So there was an honest attempt to fix to right the wrongs of Final Fantasy 13, which I appreciate. But but it seems like for every step forward it made, it also took a step back. So you got an open world, cool, but everything in that open world is so spread out that
We're on our way to you!
everything in that open world is so spread out that it takes a while to get anywhere, and you're going to be spending a lot of time just either running back and forth between markers on the map, or driving or riding a chocobo to different spots back and forth on the map. And you spend so much time doing that it's like you will either like the regalia or you will fucking hate it. There really is no in between. Either that will drive you nuts and ruin the game for you, or you will enjoy it despite that. The battle system Yeah, the magic system, I mean, everybody has just said this, but the magic system in Final Fantasy 15 just plain sucks. And it makes it so that you just don't want to do magic at all.
How are you doing, Ajay? I'm available.
You? Yes, you have a good reputation. You'll have to be discreet. No one should see you. If you can, hide make sure to remove his dog tag.
Got it.
He's holed up in a small warehouse. I'll mark the location.
What was I saying? The magic system widely reported as bad, and it is bad, and you're probably not going to wind up using it, so you'll probably just get through most battles by warp striking and holding down the attack button.
Am I speaking with Ajay Khale?
Who is this?
No time to explain. Meet me at my studio post haste.
So it's like for every step forward it takes, it seems to take a step back, and then there's the baffling decisions about it. Okay, so the way this was released is a fucking mess. Final Fantasy 15 is and will always be an incomplete game. And that just fucking sucks, because there are important parts of the story that aren't in the main game. The way that works is that part of the story was relegated to a movie called Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15. For the record, it's the best of the Final Fantasy movies, the best of the 3 Final Fantasy movies. I don't know how much that's actually saying, because they all have problems. But it is the best of the 3. But it's not just that this movie is important, okay? It's not just that. It's that this movie has the event that changes everything for the main character and is like the catalyst for the entire fucking adventure that follows it. Okay, remember when I said that at one point I got stuck on something for a long fucking time? This is the mission. Because I decided that I wanted to stealth kill every single person in this camp, and I failed it a couple times. And I failed it multiple times, and I eventually got into this mindset, which I'm sure many of you have been in, where like, I'm going to fucking do it this way, come hell or high water. You know what I mean? And I eventually did do it where I stealth kill everybody. And this was ultimately the last thing I did. So we got an hour to go, and we're at the last thing I did in this gameplay, this gameplay recording. It could have been an hour and a half if I'd been able to do this, if I had done this the smart way, but I didn't. It is what it is. But yeah, Kingsglaive is arguably the single most important story beat in Final Fantasy 15. And while Final Fantasy 15 gives you some information on what happened, it does not tell you nearly enough. And the original told you even less, so people were just genuinely confused about what the fuck happened. They had to patch it in so that it would tell you more. I'm not even kidding. Final Fantasy 15 Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15, very, very important to the overall story, but this isn't the only thing that they did this with, because there is a anime miniseries called Brotherhood Final Fantasy 15. That, while not necessarily important to the overall story of Final Fantasy 15, is important to the characters, their relationship, and their development. because the main game doesn't have much development. The four brothers have a good camaraderie between each other, and you get the sense that yeah, they really are very good friends and shit like that. But there's not much actual development there, and whole lot of that development is relegated to the Final Fantasy 15 Brotherhood anime miniseries.